in most environments, like you just described, Adam, where we've said, hey, we've got applications that only run on a PC and I run a Mac. We've had a very elegant solution for the last 20 years called VDI. And I know that my customers and yours have got very, very large VDI footprints. And I think that a lot of the folks that are talking about MPU are saying, well, I just run thin clients. But I know that data centers are getting more expensive. They're being used more today for Gen AI than they ever have been before. Data center power footprints are swelling. Data center cooling footprints are swelling in kind. And I don't think that anybody, except for perhaps the hyperscaler cloud providers, are really interested in tripling down on the amount of data center space that they own. So I guess, Dave, maybe you could help me to understand the impacts of MPU and VDI, and maybe even the standpoint on VDI in this global, Gen AI thing that we've been experiencing for the last few years.
I think I wish I could sit here and say I've got the answer, Jim, but I think it's something we're all having to learn. And we really saw this with VDI. It's kind of interesting. I worked in a shop where we ran a VDI to the state of about 90,000 accounts, right? So pretty full scale. But what we saw over the years was with every advance in capability of the desktop, whether it was Windows 7 to 10, earlier versions of Office to later versions of Office, to more of the automation that was being brought in even before MPUs, you saw density, users per core, users per server decline, which raises your costs, which is never great, right? But you have to deliver the right user experience. You talk about traders a lot, I know, and that their ability to execute quickly is real money, right? I think they have some of the lowest densities I've ever heard.
Sure.
And so when you get into this AI world, I want to provide these AI capabilities, and I want to provide them in a VDI environment because of all the benefits I get, whether it's security or ubiquity or whatever. What does that do to my density? Can I run that there? It's that much more strain on it. And typically you'd be running on a GPU. Or is there a world, and this is what I don't know, and I think we need to work with our partners to better understand, is like we do with audio and visual. The common thing now, and especially post-COVID, when all of a sudden even our VDI users expected to have high-quality video and audio, we work to offload that to the endpoint, right? That isn't run on the server. That's run on the thin client or the PC or whatever. And people had to upgrade their thin clients to do it, to get the right capability, upgrade memory, upgrade CPU. But we were able to do it, and it didn't impact density. Is there an opportunity to do that with an NPU? Is there going to be an NPU-enabled thin client that you can offload that workload? And I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, but it seems like a reasonable thing to do, to provide that capability. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And I think that's something where, again, as we're talking to our customers, thinking about how that might impact them, understand how they're perceiving it. And then again, it goes back to personas. Certain personas may not benefit as much from that. Maybe it's not a big deal. Other personas, it's really important. And maybe even they have to shift those users from VDI to a more traditional endpoint, with just helping our customers navigate that. And I wonder, Jim, if that's something we're going to have to spin up in our AI lab, is spin up some VDI and start running the workloads there, because mostly we've been talking about just regular back-end Gen AI workloads and endpoint workloads. Should we get VDI going in there and try that as well? I think with the right use case, with the right customer problems, we can see that happening. At least we will have that capability to help answer those questions.
Yeah, and I think that is really kind of one of those areas that is a big unknown right now, is that ability to fork where processing occurs. And I know that we did a lot of work, 15 years ago, 10 years ago in VDI environments to be able to do high-level GPU processing within the VDI platform itself, and then report it back as though it was video back to the customer in very high fidelity, right? And so I wonder whether or not we could almost reverse that workflow. And Adam, I would be really curious, and maybe we can do this in a future podcast, to kind of think about how we talk to, the Citrixes, the VMwares, a bunch of those different VDI providers about what that would look like, or maybe even Microsoft themselves about enabling technology, because a lot of those platforms really rely heavily on the operating system being, supportive of doing those types of splitting.
Yeah, and I think that's a great topic for a future one, because we're going to see it just as the new hardware is coming out, and we talked a lot about ISVs. I think that the VDI and those partners you mentioned are certainly going to be jumping on that train here quickly.